Picture a gas station in the summer of 1974. The price sign is broken because nobody expected it to hit $1. The line wraps around the block, and half the cars idling in that line share one badge, the bow tie. Because for one strange, turbulent decade, Chevrolet wasn't just a car company, it was the default setting for American life. And today, we're counting down the 9 Chevys that defined that decade. Starting with the one everybody bought and almost everybody regretted. Number 9 is the Chevrolet Vega. And if you know anything about this car, you already flinched, because the Vega was Chevrolet's answer to the coming wave of small Japanese imports. A lightweight aluminum block compact that looked sharp, drove tight, and then quietly ate itself from the inside out. The engine had well-documented durability problems that turned early adopters into unofficial beta testers with known engine and durability issues that still leave it with a following today, though buyers are warned to budget for repairs. And yet, here's the twist nobody expects. For a few years in the early 70s, this flawed little car was everywhere. Driveways, dealer lots, parking garages, because America was scared of the oil crisis and desperate for anything that sipped instead of guzzled, and the Vega became a symbol of good intentions colliding head-on with bad execution, a lesson GM would spend the rest of the decade trying to unlearn. Number 8 takes us to the tail end of the 70s, 1976, when Chevrolet finally admitted the small car war wasn't going away and rolled out the Chevette, an entry-level subcompact built for basic, economical transportation. No muscle, no swagger, just a simple, boxy little runabout that sipped fuel at a moment when sipping fuel was the only thing that mattered. And while car magazines yawned at it, ordinary families didn't, because the Chevette became the car a teenager learned to drive in, the car a young couple bought when money was tight, the second car in a 2-car garage that nobody bragged about, but everybody depended on. And stick with me, because the next entry on this list is the polar opposite, an American workhorse so tough it's still hauling lumber and towing boats 50 years later. Number 7 is the Chevrolet C10 and K10 pickup, the so-called square body generation that launched in 1973. And this is where the story gets interesting, because trucks in the 70s weren't the status symbols they are today. They were tools, plain and simple, bought by ranchers, contractors, and weekend fishermen who needed something that would start every morning and never complain. But that utilitarian reputation is exactly why collectors are chasing these trucks so hard right now. Because the square-body CK series produced between 1973 and 1987 has seen a major resurgence among collectors over the past decade. Proof that the most beloved cars aren't always the flashiest ones. They're the ones that were there for you when it mattered. And that brings us to a full-size Chevy that quietly outsold almost everything else on this list, without anyone ever making a movie about it. Number 6 is the Chevrolet Caprice, the top trim of Chevrolet's full-size lineup for most of the decade. A smooth-riding, V8-powered land yacht that represented the American dream in sheet metal. Chevrolet's top full-size luxury offering through much of the 1970s, prized by collectors today for its roomy interior and comfortable ride. This was the car your grandfather drove to church. The car that swallowed an entire family, plus the dog on a road trip to the coast. And it sat right above a nameplate that had been Chevrolet's bread and butter since the 50s and was about to get squeezed by history. Number 5 is the Chevrolet Impala. And here's the part most car channels skip over. The Impala wasn't just popular, it was America's best-selling car for years, running before the 70s even started. Which means, by the time this decade opened, it was already the single most common car on the road, continuing as a full-size Chevrolet through the early 70s with sedans, coupes, and wagons, with early-decade convertibles and higher-trim custom models now the most sought-after survivors. But the Impala's dominance was about to run straight into a wall, because two things were coming for full-size cars like this one: an OPEC oil embargo that would triple gas prices almost overnight, and new federal regulations that would strangle the horsepower these cars were built around. And the Clean Air Act of 1970 made the high-octane fuel these engines needed less common and more expensive. Then, the 1973 oil crisis, triggered by an OPEC export embargo, caused nationwide fuel shortages and rationing. So, hold that thought, because it's about to explain why half the muscle cars on the rest of this list quietly died before 1980. Number 4 is a car that shouldn't have worked on paper, half car, half pickup truck, but somehow became one of the most beloved oddballs in automotive history: the Chevrolet El Camino, which combined a Chevelle's front end with a genuine cargo bed out back. And while later 70s versions leaned into pure utility, the early decade El Camino SS models are the ones car folks still talk about in hushed, reverent tones. Because in 1971, Chevrolet did something almost reckless. They built the El Camino SS 454 LS6, a high-powered machine that could carry a heavy load in the bed or tow a trailer while still rocketing to serious speeds thanks to its lightweight build, making it one of the fastest GM cars of the entire decade. Think about that for a second. A pickup truck that could outrun most sports cars of its era, and yet you'd see this same silhouette parked outside a hardware store on a random Tuesday. Because that's what made 70s Chevys special. The wild and the practical lived in the same body style. Number 3 brings us to the car that started the entire decade as a genuine muscle icon and ended it as something almost unrecognizable: the Chevrolet Camaro. And this is where the story turns into a real cliffhanger. Because the second-generation Camaro that launched for 1970 is still considered by many enthusiasts to be one of the best-looking versions ever built, featuring a sleek new design, an improved chassis, and standard front disc brakes, with the Z28 trim now packing the Corvette's 360-horsepower LT1 small block under the hood. This was Chevrolet firing on all cylinders, literally, a genuine performance machine that regular Americans could actually afford. But then the same forces choking the Impala came for the Camaro too. Insurance surcharges on high-performance cars, stacked on top of emissions restrictions, stacked on top of the fuel crisis, and horsepower numbers across the entire lineup started collapsing year after year. So the Camaro that rolled off the line in 1970 and the Camaro that rolled off the line in 1979 barely resemble each other in spirit, even though millions of Americans drove one or the other, and often couldn't tell you exactly when the magic slipped away. Number 2 is the car that Chevrolet built specifically to cash in on a brand new American obsession: personal luxury. And it worked spectacularly. The Chevrolet Monte Carlo, which launched its SS Performance version in the very same year as the redesigned Camaro, 1970, meaning for one brief shining model year, Chevrolet was simultaneously building a stripped-down muscle car and a plush boulevard cruiser off overlapping platforms, with the Monte Carlo SS making its debut appearance that same year. And the Monte Carlo's formula was almost sneaky in how well it worked, because it gave buyers a two-door coupe that looked expensive, rode like a cloud, and could still be optioned with real power under the hood, complete with the Landau vinyl roof that became a defining 70s design cue you'll recognize instantly the moment you see a photo. And by the middle of the decade, this was one of the most common sights in any suburban driveway in the country. Which brings us, finally, to number 1, the car that arguably invented this entire category and refused to let go of it even as the decade tried to kill it off: the Chevrolet Chevelle, sold under the Malibu name for its top trims. And here's the story almost nobody tells right. The Chevelle wasn't just popular when it launched in 1964, it was such an immediate phenomenon that within 3 months of release, it was already accounting for close to a fifth of Chevrolet's entire production schedule. And that momentum carried it straight through the muscle car boom and into the 70s as Chevrolet's mid-size backbone, with the SS396 and SS454 models becoming the defining performance icons of the era. But the Chevelle's story doesn't get a happy ending. Because as regulations tightened and buyer tastes shifted toward smaller, more efficient cars, the Chevelle nameplate itself was discontinued after the 1977 model year as General Motors restructured its entire midsize lineup, with the Malibu returning in 1978 as a smaller downsized model sold as a coupe, sedan, and wagon. Think about what that actually means. The single car that had defined an entire generation of Chevrolet performance simply ceased to exist, replaced by a smaller, tamer version wearing a name that used to just be a trim level. And that's the real story of Chevys in the 70s, hiding underneath this whole countdown, because every single car on this list, from the doomed little Vega all the way up to the mighty Chevelle, was living through the exact same collision. Cheap gas turning expensive, loose regulations turning strict, and an entire decade forcing American car culture to grow up whether it wanted to or not. And by 1980, the muscle car, as anyone in 1970 would have recognized, it was essentially gone, downsized, detuned, or discontinued outright. Which is exactly why these 9 Chevys matter so much today, because they're not just old cars. They're a photograph of the exact moment Detroit found out the good times don't last forever. And if you want to see what happened next, when Chevrolet had to reinvent performance from scratch in the 80s, that story is waiting for you in the next video. So stick around.